finding roots from a graph. A root, well, let's look at the problem. The graph of y equals f of x is shown below. What are all of the real solutions of f of x equals 0? Well, roots is referring to what is also called a solution. So it's called a root, a solution, or, oh, wrong letter. It's an x-intercept. So these three vocabulary words or terms are interchangeable if they ask you to find the root, if they ask you to find a solution, if they ask you to find the x-intercept. All of those things mean the same. Now, the easiest one to me is the x-intercept idea. What does that mean? I always like to tell my students that whenever you hear x-intercept, the first thing you should think of is that y is equal to 0. That's how it intercepts or intersects the x-axis, is wherever y is equal to 0, okay? And notice that's kind of what we have here, is it says f of x is equal to 0, and remember that f of x is the same thing as y. So they're asking, where does y equal 0? And they call that the real solutions. So where does this graph touch the x-axis? X-intercept is touching the x-axis. All right. So it's really important to kind of recognize when it bounces like this. So it bounced right there. Where did it bounce at? That's the value of x equals -1. Where else did it touch? It's kind of hard to see, but there it goes, boop, right there at x equals 0. And that's all it touched. Okay, so that's going to be our answer. I'm not going to go into, we can create equations from these, but we can deal with that later. I don't want to overload you. All right, so we have two answers. -1, 0 is how I would write it. And it looks like it put it in set notation. These are braces. So it has two answers. The answer is -1, and the next answer is 0. Okay, shouldn't matter the order. 0, -1, -1, 0. Man, I just, you should really put these in numerical order, not just mix them up like this. So I'm not really thrilled about how Delta Math kind of does things out of order, and this is out of order. -1 comes before 0. If you have a whole string of numbers, it just makes sense to put them in order. So I would encourage you to do that, but notice it gave us the right answer anyway. All right. So same thing. We're finding roots. What are the real solutions of f of x equals 0? So same thing. Where does it cross the x-axis at? So it's right there, right there, right there, and right there. So that's at -8. It's at -3. Just nice to write it out. That's at 2, and that's at 7. That's all there is. -8, comma, -3, comma, 2, comma, 7. And yes, notice again, I wrote it in order from smallest to greatest. That's the proper way of doing it. Let's see if he got it right for Delta Math. If he did it right. No, he's mixing them all up. I'm not a fan of that technique. It should be in order, but let's see if the next one's any different. It's probably the same. Exactly the same kind of problem. When it bounces, that is a touch. So those are also values, and wherever it crosses.